Hello, everybody. Just wanted to give a brief introduction to Rinpoche for people that were not tuned in last night or here last night. Rinpoche is the lineage holder of what is called Namkha Kyudzong, or the Dujum Trulak Upper Dujum lineage, based now in Humla, Nepal, but formerly in Mount Kailash. This was a precious lineage of the Chakran Dujum Lingpa, the great Tertun and Dzogchen yogi, who one of his heart disciples was Dego Rinpoche, who was a holder of the Dzogchen and Troma lineage that moved into retreat in a cave in Mount Kailash that was called Namkha Kyudzong, meaning Space Guru, the fortress. And his close heart disciple that took over the lineage was Golak Serta Rinpoche, which is Rinpoche's grandfather, whose son was the second Dego Rinpoche, Rinpoche's father. And Rinpoche has been trained since birth in this precious lineage and is the head of the monastery in Humla, and came all the way from the remote part of Nepal to teach us here in New York City. So we're very grateful, and he'll continue the teachings from last night.
Om Bandra Sadhu Om Bandra Sadhu Gyawandi Dodadu Jesam Bantar Gilnan Dwajikam E Salam Kabarishu Saji Puchi Chuchi Dosan Ram Shikinde Kembate Sanji Shindam Vikte Provai Dokanam Edam Guru Radha Mandala Puja Mikanta Manda Savarana Samaya Yejimitra Sambandhi Pali Sanchulam Pati Minyan Jetasum Kumbata Vana Chupra Namkadanyam Biro Namtravarashu Semje Namki Samba Namkoye Chira Shita Varajichan Tamontaba Shuki Kolu Kurtu So Manjundwa Nankita Danyam Semjen Namkin Lana Mepayan Tapu Zopi Sanki Kokon Botila Chinikan Kopacha He Dundu Tene Samu Gichun Tinik Sendikan Rangi Nyamsa Lante Semjen Tamchikita Semjen Tamchikita Gashipo
Please now rouse the motivation of bodhicitta and listen to the teaching with this motivation. That's to say, we should think, I will establish all countless mother sentient beings so limitless in number is the vast expanse of space, by all means at the level of complete, perfect enlightenment. In order to do that, I will now listen to this profound teaching and put it into practice, and thereby I will accomplish great benefit for myself and others. So yesterday we discussed the view in some degree of detail. It's difficult to discuss a book that's 200 or 300 pages long in just 2 hours. That's not really possible. Nevertheless, we did cover the essential and main points of the view. So yesterday we discussed the view, and today we are going to, in this session, we're going to discuss meditation. So we need to kind of cover meditation within this 2-hour session. Generally, the general topic of these teaching sessions is the nature of the great perfection, the secret of mind, the great secret of the mind. And in the great perfection teachings, or within the natural state of the great perfection, there are actually no separate view, meditation, and conduct. These do not, there are no such distinctions within the great perfection. The reason being that within the nature of the view, or the nature of the great perfection, view, meditation, and conduct are not different, distinct things. Rather, the state of the great perfection is the single universal bindu, beyond all distinctions. Nevertheless, for those of us training on the path, for beings training on the path, we do need a presentation of view, meditation, and conduct. Without such a presentation, we don't know how to begin, we don't know how to set out on the path. So that being the case, we are taught, okay, this is the view of the great perfection, this is the meditation, this is the conduct, and such teachings and presentations are necessary from the perspective of those training on the path, even though such distinctions do not exist and not present within the great perfection itself. So all of that being the case, today we're going to discuss meditation. But when we say meditation, we're not talking about a meditation that is somehow separate or different from the view. There is a difference in the way that this meditation is approached or cultivated, but it's not something divorced from their view.
Oh yeah, ini tinju kana tanga do tawa ki ngang jang te la komba se de. Ini tawa ki ngang je wala. Tango tine shuluk shenda ta minja waji ta zoba che bol kari yore se na. Tene tawa de nyongto go ngo chopo yo. De de kang da pecha ta chi amjo na audio nyen jen den gum gyu di to zi chi gi tene kale yo. De de kang so tene rang ge so la ma pe te ba chi la ma ya tene to pa to bo. Tene nyongwa yo de ge ra ya la ma la te ba ya yo de ge. Tene chi tin chi gi chi gi rang la te ba yo ta la ma ya to pa to ba chi chi che ba yi na. Tene nyongto go ngo chopa sa ri pa nyongto ngo chopa sa de kang la ne kan sheba mai ba rang sem na ne para inji ke na ji relay just nyong al kan sa experience de nyong
Realize.
relay
Recognize.
ta sa ke relay kan sa
Recognize.
relay ma ta ngi ma ji la
Realize.
realize sa ta ta nyong realize go sa re tin du kan la tin de ji chungwa yin na tin de gi ta wa de gi tin ta gi la ma ge chik kam bo sheba sa mai bi gi sem la nyong tok ke de nyong wa chi yin ti nyong wi gi yun di ma chang de kan la dang bo nyong wa re de sham gi nyong wa de gi ni chu ni ge de lo mo sum ji be na nga ran so ge thop chu gi ne thap chi yo re ya gom pi ti ta na nga ran sem gi de ne gom gu yo re gom pi ti ta nga ran sum sing ni chi ge sem yi de sem ji ne gom pi de te thar tu thop sa de gang to go re sem ne cho ba tham ji de de wi gi chu ni ri bi gi shi ya ri ba khon gu mo di ya le ko yo re ti ndi kan ta ti to ja am jo ko ma de de na ji sem ne go ma de de to so ngo ti ndi kan la ti yong ju di gen zen chi re so ba nga ran so tan da ji nyam nen de wo za ni ji ma yong de kan la nyam nen se gen de kan ni ji ye zo pa chim bo cha ke chim bo ti di ji zo se yin sang mi do sem ni ya ji dong ba ni de se ji dong hang hang de wo dang ji ji ning ji se de kan ji sem jo ha ha rong gen de wo dang oi tinje ji le ning ji re sem gen de wo ji tinje ji nga la de nam mi na ya sik na tinje gi lo yi gi jo yu kha chang gom di gi ba shang yan ba de gi tine ji ma sum ju mi gi to ri pi gi to ndi ji la tu kan la chok ka wa du me de wo dang ji gang yi me de wo ji mo de wo sim mi de wo ka le yo re ti gyun chen de kan re sa ba nga ra so nyam nyung me ba ya la ma ya bu ma che ba ra la ya te ba te bu me ba so sa de chang mon du ma song ba tinje gyun chen mong bo de na ta de sa wa ni de yo ma Tindu kala nindi devna la lavshe yo, kyaran so zopa chimbo ngi, tiringe de kyezo la sarwa zom yo ma, ngi di tip lav timne, depi tine lo chu ngi lo yo re, tinna la kanti shabza kyaran so onni ki zopa chimbo zi ha go go wa jitan tinda chige tine ha go yo na, tangshu tine lama yakbo zi tsali, kyaran so la donyer yakbo zi, chö yakbo zi chogo so la donyer zi yobi tene, lama yakbo zi tsali, tiyan lama tiya chige ming chimbo, top chimbo chige H race again to HE race again to holiness race again tinta che go mare lama sula nyamne ya ko yona nyamne yo ke lama che la tene tine tila te ba to ba sha te ti kun de la tine nyamnyung go ni rang ri pa ya echu me ta pare ta ti chen shi sha mo go ja ke pe na nar pa tin telo pa kun de la tine ri pa mo che bi lo ju la so pa ta tine shin che ge tene da ngaran so dunjum ling bi kun de la ngaran so digi kansa sana konge 잡지 dunjum dikunja la kansa dunjum ning bikunda de ku koma ge ba mo chata ngi tu na peche lapsha sa yo oya tina ma yo tinso tambi de kansa na so kai ge sheba sa mayin bigi sheba de go gore sheba de majon de pena na address to ji mena ga so sa sa do shek marwa gore te yena ya tonda foronte kan gore sana mara ge nyam nyung go tone ya feeling ji ta ta sa kansa experience in a kansa all that tinji ko ni gom tira tene juko giti kechu shures tene tinji tingi tene janga mo chi lori ki du shegis.
When we talk about meditation, we're talking about maintaining the state of the view. So in this context, to train in meditation means to train in maintaining the state of the view or the continuity of the view. As a distinct quality of the meditation of the Great Perfection, meditation as it's taught in the Great Perfection, is that the view is something that's recognized through experience. The view is something that's identified by means of experience. This is something that recognizing the view by means of experience is something that you can't really do or get just by like listening to teachings online or audio recordings and so on. One really needs to seek out a genuine teacher and learn in person from that teacher. So this means finding a root guru who's endowed with a high level of realization and experience. Then from one's own side, having faith and devotion in that teacher. When these two things come together, a realized teacher and a student with faith, then the student can be introduced to the true nature by means of experience. Of course, explanation is needed at the beginning, but then that can be actually, the meaning of those words can be cultivated through experience, so that some recognition, like experiential recognition, or Rinpoche used the word realization, is actually like experienced for oneself from this, by the student. So first of all, the degree of experience, and then that can be developed into, expanded into genuine realization. To begin with, of course, we meditate like at present, where when we train in meditation, we're doing it like within the framework of our conceptual mind, right? Our conceptual mind meaning dualistic perception of subject and object, perceived and perceiver. But by training by training with conceptual mind, we need to reach a state beyond conceptual mind. A state beyond conceptual mind, a state that's free of all constructs and extremes, namely naturally present Rigpa. Hearing all of this at first, it might sound very unfamiliar and a bit kind of difficult to really understand what's being communicated. This is the case because we lack familiarity with these teachings, we lack experience, we haven't practiced much in the past. That being the case, when we hear these teachings, for instance, when we hear explanations of the Great Perfection, we sort of just understand, we just like develop a conceptual idea, the Great Perfection is this kind of state. Or when we hear teachings on emptiness, we think, emptiness means like some empty void state. Or when we hear about compassion, then we interpret it as like some kind of feeling, like a sensation, there's no real other option at first, right? Because we are in conceptual mind. Nevertheless, when we talk about the state we're talking about is the ineffable, indescribable, inconceivable state. It's something that's difficult to, and that being the case, it's difficult to really recognize what is being conveyed when we first hear these teachings. That's difficult because up till now we have lacked faith in the teachings and the teachers. We have not connected with genuine gurus. And we haven't accumulated enough purification of our negative karma and accumulation of merit. Because of that lack of conditions, then we struggle to understand really what's being communicated here, right? So that being the case, and I have explained all of this in much more detail in my book, The Great Secret of Mind. So this being the case, what we first need to do, if we really want to recognize the view, meaning through experience, because that's what we're talking about here, then first of all we need to seek out a genuine teacher, a genuine guru. And when we say a genuine guru, we're not talking about like someone who has a high title or high status, like His Holiness this or His Eminence this. We're talking about anyone who has genuine experience in practice. Whoever is a genuine practitioner, they qualify as a genuine teacher. So we need to seek out such a teacher. And then develop faith in them, faith and devotion, trust, and then through that, by working with that teacher, we can come to gain really real experience, like direct experience in Rigpa, natural awareness. There are so many stories about this process of transmission, like between Tilopa and his disciple Naropa, also Dujum Lingpa, the first Dujum Lingpa, and one of his heart disciples, the first Dega Rinpoche. I'm pretty sure I mentioned these stories in my book. The main point, though, is that, of course, explanation is necessary, like verbal explanation, using words, that's necessary. It's a bit like giving someone an address, right? If you want to get somewhere, you need the address. But the point is that you need to get to the destination, right? Which is to say, you need to cultivate, you need to arrive at direct experience in what's being explained and pointed out. So that's what we that's what we need to do to gain experience in meditation.
Oh yeah, tenita. Tingaran so nyamnyung so de nyamnyung to mara pese ma chap chu sa ne ba to pa chimbo se ge de chon me ge lam to pa chimbo se ge de chon me ge lam ta de long den ji tang yo ta long den ji ke che gyur na mo go to re kong ne kong do sang be lam cha de lam dan tu me ji de lam da de na nam ki ta sin tu pa me se tenita rong so ma pa de ta ge kun ji ge lu long dang ne lam da chim do ge je pa chi lam ga tha yo ma la yo ma ro ta pen de ne America ya Australia Nepal Korea jab ko ji jam ko ji ji jab de do sa che ma re when nam ka ro ji na ji pun do ge na khen so ge dang sang ge karma chi na kilometer jab tho do tu tong chang do tu ge tin je ge ne pen mi ge ka rocket de ka dang sang ka re din na la ne ka se aran so ge mas no ma do tu ge tin je ge ne nam ru cha pa so sha na 다른 로그는 살게 말 진짜 격수에 계시 뺀이게 세계는 뭐 저기는 남각 타요 말도 그러면 가서 전에 타있잖아요 막 뺏기나시 택발라야 타요 말에 남라야 타 바르급징이 타 매비기 도나게 하고서 가서 뒤님한테 타쳐 봐 남각 타 매바 하고서 가서 가서 내랑 되니 남기게 타도 쳐서 봤다 그게 드론은 남기게 타쳐 말 뒤나신지기 남디야 드론 남살기지가 요말 뒤인도 저바 신부게 남디 드메게 남 solwa chen thokyu yo ma ti solme ki lam stella ti ndu kala ta rang ri pa ha ko te ti thola ma la se mala sha chap chu sa ne ma che ni dik pi kin dang de ma sho we gang ta te ju te la solwa chen ko kom se yo res
The path of the great perfection, the meditation of the great perfection, is said to be an effortless path without effort. Rinpoche quoted Rongzong Mahapandita, who mentions some lines from one of the tantras, just to paraphrase. The quote that Rongzong mentions basically says, if you try to sort of reach the end of space, no matter how long you travel, you're never going to reach it. When you recognize that there is no end to space, at that point you've arrived, something like that. So it's like if you were to, you might travel through space, say you travel through space in a rocket at 10,000 whatever kilometers or whatever speed, even like at the speed, that a rocket travels through space to Mars, that incredible speed, high speed. Even if you were to travel for sort of on and on at that speed through space, you're never going to reach the end of space, because there is no end of space. No matter how fast you go and no matter for how long you keep going, you're never going to reach the end of space, because space simply has no end. So likewise, there is no end to vehicles, there is no end to paths, to vehicles and spiritual paths. When, however, you understand that there is no end to vehicles, there is no end to the path, just like understanding that there is no end to space, at that point then you've arrived. So this is the path of the great perfection, the effortless path of the great perfection. That being the case, when with that understanding one just lets be, settles in natural ease, without any effort or contrivance, and just naturally rests at ease in Rigpa, the natural state, that is the meditation of the great perfection.
Tila michi gazeti res, konange loma chi gazeti tapong kewa chibu tokwa tumbu ta saisha sajere ti ngaranzo mizi gidi ya chi ta chi sabare tokwa sawi ndu kala ti kongdang la sone jingaram buchi kege tawa di kandiji na siya Tibet res tarmujane tini jingaram ngi tawa sumdus dini ya konang godi ogo sa tapera di gorba di goni 니네 야랑 그런 거지 전용 쓰요나 obji ichi matogi ni tawa thola tiki me ko osumsta tiki den len chason japsarta odres.
We need to recognize or ascertain this through our own mind, meaning in our own mind, by means of experience. This needs to be ascertained experientially for ourselves. There's a story about this, a story in this regard, a story about Shenga Rinpoche, a great master of the past, who was a renowned Dzogchen master, someone who'd reached the pinnacle of learning and pinnacle of realization. One day, one of his students, came to him and asked some questions. As students, often one has a lot of doubts and conceptual thoughts, so a student came to him and said, Master Rinpoche, and with palms joined, the student said, Rinpoche, please tell me, what is your view? And Shenga Rinpoche replied, he said, my view, eh? He said, my view, well, if Guru Rinpoche were to come, say, through that door, if Guru Rinpoche to appear in this room through that door, all I'd have to say is, are you tired from your journey? I'd have no questions about the view.
bet tashoinita sangi gurumbuji lagaji kongo yomarta kongi fabric koran gurumbuji laga yomarta gurumbuji koran gorde musum koran de pemna ya gurumbuji la respect chujuta mato tawa tol chiji koran sem na tacho
de the meaning of this, or what this shows us, is that it's not that Shenga Rinpoche lacked respect for Guru Rinpoche. For him, there is no one greater than Guru Rinpoche, no one higher than Guru Rinpoche. But it just shows the depth of his conviction, his resolution in the view. He has nothing to ask Guru Rinpoche, simply just to show his respect by saying, are you tired from the journey? He has no questions to ask.
Tindu kaladan dilla tine sangi chomdin de pebna tigume gurumbuji pebna tigume kundu sangu pebna tigume tam gorong ketine ta tawa gomone taksune nyongi tam taksete yo stile tindu kalata tawa sikede kangarese banje jamgum biban bujege chidar nilu tong toyingi shi tawar dayi chidar takse ba tishin gomda chebi kyons tisto na kangarese banje nishi sikede tawa sikede nishi sen taksu pelo ta ina tanda ngarang su de pecha ta gita oda keta shekide tsiki zamjita semgi nishijire ta ina ya nishi tila tene tere tawa de toko yore nishi korona tawa nishi seginda ta takshubi lo jirewa teni lo re te ina lo tela tene masam jume japa tamche treviri kwa korongi tene ta ngarang zo ina ngogo senanda kirang zo na quality senanda kanyi na titi hako yore ti kore chewala ngarang zo ki tsiki jugyo mare ya miki tenyo mare lakpi ki tukyo mare kansana zopa chenpo sikente ngopo tinte ki sukshin ki ngopo chiga mare shepi ki ngopo chiga mare tenyo kala shepa le debare ngopo le debare tenyo kala detawo chikde kandishi hako warasana masam jebatan terbi ngan hako ware masam jebatan hako wara terkete kanishi na mawasan bat jebatan tawa chaku marawa kanishi yu tsikre miki tenyo ni sugre ta dire de 미마치 오니 게드네 춘이 대식님보다 장을 유비게드네 균센텔라텐 라미기 지납다 랑기 뉴욕기 섬나 유비기 데네 대식님보다 미마치 게드네 뇽위기 통직 살롱고 내값소 미션도 산은 서비스 쉣 미션 랑기 데네 파기네 지 쮸드 미션 비징아네 데네 모지 쳐고레 디 모지 쳐비기 토텔라 데네 랑기 데네 파 로단 타와지네 곰자고이나 teni sanji ko mon bo te tabron ko cha yo mares te nyomon ba tamji te rangshil pu to gore nyomon ba tamji rangsar ta gore nyomon bangji lo zolwa chi mo go kerim zorim la so go mo go ke zo tamji ge ri korang mo la ke ba do zo ba tamji de chang gore ti tine zo ba chim bi quality res
ke ba dang so be yin
ke zo tamji dengi zo de nang ji shi ye zo kerim do se do ma do chama na la tene nang ji shi san ye zo kerim do se 티스르 가나 드리파 코로나 게르도 조르테 조르 티르 서버 카게 연데 고 코로나 연데 퀄리티 코로나 상대 되 가라 티 모라 샤바 삼지기 엔 연전 탐지 모두 그런 거스
So this just shows that the great perfection is something to be realized through direct experience. Khenpo Shenga had achieved this, and therefore he had nothing to ask anyone. If Buddha Shakyamuni, if Guru Rinpoche, if Buddha Samantabhadra were to appear right in front of him, to walk in through that door and arrive in this room, he says he has no questions to ask them. That's to say, he has completely resolved the view through experience, directly through experience, his own experience. Mipan Rinpoche also speaks to this same point. Rinpoche recited a quotation which basically says that the view is to be ascertained through confidence, or rather the view is actually a state of confidence that you arrive at through ascertaining something. So to begin with, or for us, when we talk about confidence, like the view is confidence, but we're still talking about a conceptual state of mind, right? Like a conceptual confidence or certainty. Maybe certainty is a better word here. However, by cultivating that conceptual certainty, through that conceptual certainty, what we need to come to understand through that is something that transcends concepts. Rigpa, natural awareness that is ineffable and indescribable. Rigpa, natural awareness is it's something that it's not visible, it's not touchable, it's not a material entity, it's not an objective conceptual mind. It transcends material phenomena, transcends concepts. How to understand this ineffable, inconceivable state? Well, through the ineffable, inconceivable state itself. If we keep on talking, then we're not in the ineffable, inconceivable state, right? However, because we have Buddha nature, because Buddha nature is present in our minds, all sentient beings are endowed with Buddha nature or Sugata Garbha, then it's possible that when we encounter a genuine guru and we receive instructions from them, we receive those instructions with faith and devotion, and are open to those blessings, and we then engage ourselves, we apply ourselves in practice, which is to say, just resting and settling in natural ease, in that state without contriving. Then it's possible to arrive at a state of direct recognition or direct experience, and to understand experientially what's meant, to understand this inconceivable, indescribable state through direct experience. Once we've arrived at that point of recognition, experiential recognition, and we then continue to train in that for months and years, applying ourselves, training persistently in that way, then Buddhahood really is not far away. The attainment of Buddhahood, the manifestation of perfect enlightenment is not far away. By training in this way, then all afflictions, all the negative emotions and afflictions will be naturally purified. They will naturally dissolve, naturally be purified purified and undone. There's no need to rid this state of afflictions. They will naturally be purified and undone. Likewise, all qualities, all the enlightened qualities, like the qualities of the generation and completion stages, they will all naturally manifest, because those qualities are naturally present within that state. So when resting in natural ease in this state, all of these qualities will naturally manifest.
Oh yeah, that's it. 당한도게 당고 따디 랑게 통는 요이 토라 냠 요이 토라 컨디션 뭐 저거서 따디 카 당강이 당고 먹고 랍사래 데인디 그 패치 코드가 있나야 랑게 용토니 뭐 저게 다 자쇼데 마시바 그냥다리 빠디 마시바 샤는 최탐지 오늘 심미서들 그것도 다다 땅 나원 다든지 똥버스기 현다 공교 막 단단 알아 이 통되게 릭되게 고되게 용되게 빼나 수고를 쌓여야 되는데 지금 마대와도 마기바 여기 뒤 그런 거 돌 단단 알아 뒤 돌아가 파라 심미서를 그러와 걸어 딱신 제바이나 둘기 자던 미규나신 미규추나 추도 통거를 때 미규서기나 추산이요 막 배디나신 단단 그런 게 돌아더라 마지바 공이 셰바 라버스잖아 미기 숙마가 미순교 말에 암적가 교 말에 supu tai chi gyo ma ko ma sha ne ti thola ma ta or ma do ke 지 당하 고만 주시 믹좀 되게인데 다 암적 쉬고 고도 암적 띵이 되게인데 그래서 곰케이 말 롱전 암적 뒤송셔도 믹디 차가 좀 있어 믹디 차상 마당서 차상 좀 마셔서 믹디 다 당선 곰케가 믹좀 들마 믹좀 카다 믹좀 되 배둑다디 레슬링 이슈 곰 되게 나서 진짜 누가 곰체 곰케가 됐다지 근데 많이 봐 믹이 알아 봐 믹차가 좀 알던 마셔 그냥 암적에 그 곰이 쉐바 탐지 가랑 밥수 마샤네 곰 거예요 디 곰나 편바 강어리서나 군전 원제를 강어서나 믹 맞좀나 믹좀나 제 무시도도 약속 나라도 투문기 연대 망고지 공부 공할 때는 용교 믹이 무시도 나위 무시도 제 무시 류 무시 때 저게 무시 사지기 투문기 무시 망고지 때 공익이 셰발 때는 두비기 망고지 그래서 담에 고가 믹좀 안저 때 되게 되나 대인도 강티라 한 법수 말로 샤거래서 대한민국 전부 하라 때 당때는 양남도 빼 통주 먹고 되네요. 나랑 소리는 뒤에 차로랬어. 강세 치기래. 그네 그러봐라. 양도. 대한민국 좀 되는 이제 밀면 거를. 내가 직전에 이 조균이야. 이 마주나야 되는 양남도 잡니다. 샤네. 팀무기 때문에 그러면 나와서 이 조. 된대지겨. 근데 미기 차가 전되고 때는 봐라. 하루에마다 그 미중고 되게나 치 나와대야 마가 마음이 뒤에 뭐시도 사지기 뭐시스나 투문기 뭐시도 제줄라야 되는 공부 마가 어야 니야 마도 어야 남도가야 시험 찾고 말해 તે 진르징아 원래는 샤니 તે 쫄미기 이시의 샤르미기 탑디 진르지레 송샤도스
So, this being the case, first of all, what we need to first of all do is to recognize this state through personal experience, right? I did talk about this yesterday, but just to talk about it again. We need to recognize this state through direct experience for ourselves. The best way to do this, and this is what I touched on yesterday, is to rest without contriving in Rigpa, in natural awareness. To just let be without any contrivance or any fabrication. To rest in the state knowing that all phenomena are merely display. They lack any root, they lack any basis. When we think of emptiness, we shouldn't understand emptiness as something other than actually our current present experience. Everything that we're experiencing right now, the forms we're seeing visually, the physical sensations we have, like maybe our skin itching or feeling something, the tastes and sounds and sights, everything we're experiencing right now, that is emptiness. Emptiness is not something else. If we examine and analyze our present experiences, we will come to see they don't exist, they're not established in any way. That is emptiness. It's just like a mirage. When certain conditions come together, like a desert, warmth and wind, then a mirage, the appearance of water appears, right? But there's actually nothing there whatsoever. So all phenomena, all our experience is just like that. So we should rest in this state of natural ease, without contriving. There's no need to block perceptions, to block our eyesight, our hearing, and so on, like closing our eyes or trying to kind of tense up and stop sense perceptions occurring. We shouldn't do that. We shouldn't do that. Longchenpa said that when meditating, one should leave one's eyes open, not wide open, but also not closed, but kind of half open, or naturally open, half open. These days, most people, they seem to meditate with their eyes closed.
슈든 카좀 밀좀 배슈 강대로 레슬링 이제 슈 가도가 도착도 진짜 배슈 강도 디노신 되게 두스니 그래 비주나 가게 통도 거기야 근데 지금 말해 수고고 이제 돌아이나 라고가 수부이나 하고 정말 샘도 보잖아 때 류도 보잖아 샘도 본 거래 대인들가 또 보죠 우디야 칸다 말해 카드 추니 또 말이 거지 닝티기로라 알아서 때네 닝티 둔줌을 보제다 지저리 시도제다 다 알아서 때네 닝티기 때 롱제랑 저로라 우디야 칸에 마다 미디야 또 차가 좀 이제 소르고 이제 샴버마도
So, we shouldn't be all like with our eyes closed and all tensed up, like, you know, like someone who's wrestling or weightlifting, and their whole body is tense and they're like this, you know. I've seen some people meditate like that on a video. We don't want to be like that. Instead, we should just leave our eyes naturally open, or we could say half open, and the body relaxed. Because when the body is relaxed, the mind will be relaxed. Our mouth should also be left slightly open in the tradition. In the Nyingtik tradition, the tradition of Dujum Lingpa, of Jigme Lingpa, of Longchenpa, we meditate with our mouth slightly open, and we breathe in and out through our mouth. Back to the eyes. We shouldn't close our eyes. Rather, all the sense faculties, our eyes and other sense faculties, should just be left wide open. Why? Longchenpa explained that if we meditate with closed eyes, then actually we are impeding the development of ordinary types of clairvoyance or higher perception. So different ordinary defiled types of clairvoyance can be developed through the sense faculties, through the eye, the ear, and so on. And if we meditate with our eyes closed or our sense faculties closed, the development of those higher perceptions will be obstructed. Also, if we meditate with our eyes closed, it's easier to become dull, to fall asleep, and fall into a state of ignorance. But equally, if we meditate with our eyes wide open, then we easily become distracted, and actually that can generate more thoughts. So that being the case, we should meditate with our eyes half open. This is a method taught, a method for resting without effort, in an effortless state.
Ngusu jeju lui jumi ju gyo rangsar shabi chuku to ripa rangdur ke lama la salwa de sunga liwi duma na tisong share den du kala nam to ki chuku me sam den di zopa chibu de gala chasa nam zopa chibu de nam to ka gyo mari nam to kubla rang gyo mari nam to ka rangshin kan pati ke demi juma ta o shebi ko ne chimitar nam to khrom sharong du kala tongba sharwa dawo de ngala dunjur mu jege tene ngala so gurma jina do Sem kemi ke long to sharara asla shadwa ti kana kewa mi bi ngala sem khron kewa kemi ke ngala shan ma chi ba sha or ma to ke nam to ka wala sa pata ya nam to ka ba se de kala be ngala to chidang ge tene gom na sin nam to ke ma chu ni pa nam to ke so no gom thuk ro nam to san ke ma chu se ba nam to de ora khang ba go jap sha na sin ji jap sha ge na ti gom ya ta ba ma re ya nam to ka sa ke ma chu wa re te 남도 그 강샤기도 다당한 곰들한테 자가르기 곰들한테 곰 먹고지라 남도 가리샤기도 다니데 남도 샤랑 못이라 다니 곰고르스라 남도 샤는 남도 제수 장와르 가티야 곰 말에 베나 강바 고제시는 구만나도 잘라포도 티드게네 신지기 되니 남도 그 되니 그 제수 장주야요 말 제수 장주데 남도 엉도 쇼서 디한 장주 아나 단다 거린낭 단계를 세마르 되게 까와리 봄바리 다리니 레슬라버진 지금 탐을 그쳐버티 세마르 셈주스 디야 말에 강이는 남도께 제소야 만다 남도가야 마가 남도가 다디게 남도 될라 세마르야 마슈 다디게 셰바티 되네 거바 셰바 용토티 동라 파라 마지바 나 상샤나 되니 곰순지 줍대 그 딜을 되는 조금씩 보고 세고 그랬어
Therefore, when we meditate, we also shouldn't meditate thinking, I'm not going to let myself think, I mustn't let myself think. Actually, if you have that state of mind, that you're inviting thoughts to come. There's some beautiful lines that relate to this in the prayer to Guru Mushe in 7 chapters. Loosely translated, they say, do not suppress thoughts, but also do not invite them. Just rest naturally at ease. So if we think that in meditation, if we have this mindset, oh, I mustn't let a thought arise, I mustn't think, then we're automatically sort of in contradiction with the approach of the Great Perfection. Rather, we should not suppress thoughts, we should also not chase after thoughts, we should not interfere or fall into thoughts. We should simply rest without contrivance, knowing that all arisings, whatever mental movement, whatever thoughts arise, they're simply display without any real basis or root. Dujun Rinpa says in one of his songs, just letting go in the unborn state, in the unborn continuity. So whatever arises, it's essentially unarisen. So just resting and letting be in that state. Therefore, to reiterate, when we think, oh, I mustn't think, I mustn't have thoughts, that is not genuine meditation. It's a bit like locking yourself in a room and closing the door. We also, on the other hand, when thoughts arise, we needn't chase after them in the sense of like watching thoughts and observing them and examining the thoughts that arise. I've seen and heard a lot of people explain and practice meditation like that, where the meditation is like just a process of observing thoughts and examining those thoughts. If we do that, then we fall under the sway of those thoughts, right? A bit like letting a thief into a house and having them run off with all your stuff. Equally, if we fall into thoughts, so fall into or fixate on our perceptions, like like get absorbed in what we're seeing, what we're hearing, what we're tasting, then we're just in an ordinary mundane state, right, like ordinary people. So neither do not suppress, do not chase after thoughts, do not fixate or get absorbed in thoughts. If we can be free of those things, not suppressing, not chasing after, not fixating, then naturally we're in a state of great perfection meditation. The great perfection meditation will be spontaneously present.
Oya ta di namtok ka jamaka namjok jesu yamada na tati namto tetene kemet tushe de juti machu ba shakuti tene takara detail shi uta wasanna tene jitri ishi durji kapji jitri ishi durji ge richu matris ginjore tinala tagina pe kasaru ko dewo ora parati gyursha ge vasar damda kezu inji tol gyursar ge vasare te yakbo de gyuryo me kanse te yakbo gyuryo na pe mege ko dewo oya ngusu jeje lui jimi ji gwaransa shabu chukur churik pa randu ge la mala sorwa de besegen de pe kasaru tursu jare tinata jore ngiti richu mati de ene kapje tungsi nuru kundu kana shiwa yin oya te tindu kana pe kasaru da kochugo shiwa de kana bazo tinzula yang kanjere do ya namdo tene ga maga jesu yang ma da tati sheba ma sheba sha ma sheba de shimi tadru ngola sha sake de kanje ina pe gewaji go du samna de tinzula kiranzo de da tinzula tene konyong chida de kiran kasaru yungres.
So we should not without suppressing thoughts, without chasing after them, but simply resting in the unborn state of present awareness without contriving. That is how one should rest. If you wish to learn a bit more about this, to hear about it in more detail, then you can read the instructions on Mountain Dharma by Dujun Rinpoche. Dujun Rinpoche, Jigdra Yeshe Doje. I believe this has been translated into English as well. The original text is extremely clear and easy to understand. How well it's translated into English, I don't know, but the text itself is really clear and accessible. I received this teaching from Dungse Chini Nobu Rinpoche. So if you guys want to learn more about, come to understand more clearly what this means, to not suppress, not chase after, but to rest without contriving in present awareness, then look at that text.
Oya, teni ta ngarang tindri jingala shani teni shato ne ta tanda lama kunde damwa shure kema damwa ma shuna tira wi nyamlin chi shege mar tambu nyamlin de damwa de shuje lama ji su ta tanda ngi de deb ge sho shege ti chilal chitang de tindri ji res kema la bre ta kerang so ge teni tira gom jamne te nyima chi sem gi ngo de oni ge cheme ge sem ji ngo de rang la chi ngo she ngo du kan la teni lo de u ta 문이기 즉 샘라양 즉 다다다 만데웨기 즉 문이기 즉 구양보당 로데우당 가리나야 지금 민직범에 되게인데요. 버능랑서 이나티네 니당고 하든 라비 크루 친구지 크네 킬로미터 담바지 크네 직거를 킬로미터 추정하지도 탕체 빼가 디디 말 욕상나 양상이라고 차도 괜지 커비게 셴바디 빼드네 크루 yap니 크루 지우 요샤가나지 셴바 탐치데 달데겐지 딘디지트네 용와다고 차온 주게 되네 용구였나 따때 곰디 다 할랑 따다 그리고 따랬어 대한 용의 돈센다
So first of all, we need to receive instructions on meditation from a teacher, right? So personal instructions in person from a teacher. So we've covered, I've shared some instructions with you briefly here today based on my book. So first of all, that's what we need to do, receive instructions from a teacher. Once you receive those instructions, then you need to apply yourself to practice, right? So to actually sit and train in meditation, resting at ease as you've been taught. If you then apply yourself to this and you train, you sit and you train, resting, settling in this natural state daily, persistently, then after some time you will come to recognition of the natural state. You'll arrive at the natural state. What this experience will be like is you'll arrive in a state that is unlike anything you've experienced before, a sort of unprecedented sense of openness, sense of ease and freedom, a sense that, everything is absolutely fine. A bit like I used this example before in a previous teaching. It's a bit like if you've been trekking with a really heavy load on your back, say for like 50 kilometers, and then finally you reach your destination. 50 kg, okay, sorry. 50 kg load.
10 kilometer.
For 10 kilometers carrying 50 kg. Then you reach your destination and you sit down and you drop the bag. There's such a sense of relief, right? Now all that weight is off your shoulders. So something like that, a sense that you've dropped the heavy load of samsaric phenomena and now you're totally free of that attachment. If you arrive at a state such as this, when I say arrive at this state, I mean like through direct experience, then this is a sign that your meditation is on track, that you've recognized correctly. That's what
Lama take it, took the round trouble, Lama motor than you say, Lama what take that delicious or the what the trust the round trouble. Bella, Daddy Gavu or the Daddy Gavu, the fortune Ben Power Mato, that from the Todaja, Daddy Gavar, the Pope was at the Ben Power. Dinner Karanzogi, Ranging Yamtong, Yomtong, and what you share with Mato, Yomtong, no machine, Kazuki, what you Zobdun, did they carry Zobdun for a share in there? They got a Ben Thomas.
The teacher points this out to us, right? The teacher gives us the introduction, but recognition needs to happen within ourselves. We need to come to recognize. The teacher points this out to us, but we need to recognize for ourselves. Recognize through personal experience. It's a bit like an arrow and a target. You have the arrow, but the arrow then needs to be shot into the target, right? The arrow needs to be shot into the target. So likewise, having received the pointing out instructions, we need to actually apply them and recognize for ourselves through experience and realization. Otherwise, just to hear lots of explanation. I mean, you could study the whole 7 treasuries of Longchenpa, right? They're basically all introduction. But just like without experience, endless explanation isn't going to help.
Yeah, that's it. Because the session is that Mogushena, that Titola Marshal Cutere, Dindukala, the Quincy Lonsen and Jam Council Dosena, Tawa to the Toja, Gomba, he took the Majana, Chunang, and a doctor of Mares, that Dipe and condition budget. The Tawa he talked to the Tawa he took the Toja, only report from Jig, Moji Church, Lamaki Mote, Cananso Yang, Yamung Sani, the magic Gomja report more trip with Chuma Inayang. 디 곰들 곰이 링고치네 곰 마자와이나 양 추바 규칙이 말해 나랑 속에 추바데 깨왔나 로 잡잡동상 망보지네 차소 녀몽비게 징되와 인도 강라 딜 남상지 코티 녀몽바데 빵 두고 말 빼더지 가서 꾸빠직 때 꾸라 빼 망보 림 꾸빠 어디 빼나 나랑 도다가 부고 때문에 강라 도도도지 다 되는 꾸빠디 쉬우 dim잖아 데 데라서도 커피게는 걸고도 지금 파르진 가로 거서 양출 걸어온다 거기 걸어고도 빼디나 인지게 나랑 남동 좀 막고 쉬우지 것만 dim디인도 강라 되네 कोरा जब देखे तो सारे रंग इतने ले रहा उच्च तो कुमा तीन जो कहाँ तावा ये तो ना यहाँ गोंबा इंतो तो जा करे ऐसे मैं कुछ जिन बच्चे सों के गोम या बुगोरे ऐसे तावा तो मोटे भाई ना ती तो गोम ते पहले लो तो तावा से पा गोम जाऊं तो कहाँ ते पर कब से ते चुल्ली के तो पर थम से ते आते ना चुल्लां थम से इंसु यार रो रहे दूरसों दो ते तावा इंतो तो तावा ये तो जहाँ नीचे ना तावा ये तो जहाँ गोंबा इंतो तो माशा ना खरबी चुल्लां दो मिटे ऐसे ते खरबी चुल्लां माशा ना ते 감성 걸어할 때 감성 걸어할 때 동안을 요만 때 단단한 동안 마음바야 동안이야 그래 뒤에 가라 딱 알아서 곰기 윤디 하고 짱 거래 곰도 여고 짱서나 뒤에 곰기 나올 때는 때 셔당 가라 차고 탐 제시 걸para 너빈 yar도가 남칼라 뒤에 걸 너빈 yar도가 분신 띵랑가 롱 남칼라 yar도가 나 진짜 셔샤소니 못 탐지 때라고 나랑도 등진 쉬고 말에 차소 깨게 말 도샤 깨게 말에 तेनी गोम जापो जे गैप सबाना ता छोपसा डिबजन ता से मगो रे ते पेम बिगे तेने सांगी कोबार मुझे थपियो चेंगे दोशा करे ती मासे जिबे तादा ngaraं तो के डेली लाइव ला सा तुम रो दु लेगा जे छोंग जे ने सिंगा ता ऑफिस रो करे रो इन संपदे yang choli yoje sul miti ko sani me de gen jo je gom ya ko miti misudang chona dipu yo de gen je le가 gari je na yang positive data yo de ge misudang so na de ya putu se ji de chung te chung gom ya bo ta de ya bo mi do de ya bo de me danga nga australia do de kana mi ji ko so mi ge chupore se 4-star 5-star data de ge te shiu chupore gari ya pe latest gar lo re lemar li je gure se de gari se ta chi na dik to ji do kan ya sa ga na la ti do gari na di sa ga na la khara ti mi do wa de ge da de mo do ji पैसा ना जिंगे फैसिलिटी बिंदु से दोना जी कंप्लीट की बुदु से कितना से बिंदु से दांगा ते मिल लाभ करता जे ने ता छुपु छुपु इने तिंदे रे तिनी न्यामले या पर में छुपु छुपु यो ना की बो मार मिंग छुपु यो ना की बो मारे ओ या प्रेसिडेंट वो कोसा तब देना मा की बच्चे नि ठोक मारे ओ या प्रेशर छुपु छुपु फार करे ते बिंदे खारे से बाजे सेम दिल करान सो के तिने छासो नि मों थाम जे ते गोन ने मा तो छासो नि मों थाम जे ताम तो की बो मा तीन ती कम गोम जागे मिदी गोम याबु छोसना 세심하다 산지 고마도 뼈다 알라라 임바 마세 베지 생들아야 구양 불로되고 수라 되나 직부 만직바 가야 메되게 딘더지 작된 라마라 때파페 야고게 semjana 닌제야 지 쥐마 많이 비 닌제지 라신슈가 게용게 지 스텝나 준자교도 요규셰교 밀은 고골기라서 산이 메용게 딘더지 차온데 가라 딘데 곰데 야고 지 도고 따레스
So we need to rest to train in this state, let be in this state. To this end, Longchenpa said, even if you've realized the view of primordial liberation, if you don't train in that, if you don't train in that through meditation, then samsara will not be brought to an end. So we might have met a teacher, received instructions from that teacher, and then by applying those instructions, come to recognition, to have recognized the natural state within ourselves. However, if we don't keep on training in that state, then the afflictions that torment our mind and so on are not going to be brought to an end. Since beginning this time up until now, we've been habituated to delusion and to the afflictions of attachment, aversion, ignorance, and so on. Now, we can't abandon these immediately. These aren't going to be relinquished immediately just by a brief instant of recognition. It's a bit like a coiled string. If you have a string and you've tied it up in a ball, right? Wound it up and tied it up in a ball. If you then undo that string and kind of hang it, if you undo that string, it's not going to fall straight, right? It's going to fall in a spiral because it's been tied up in a spiral for so long. So our minds are like that. Our minds have been kind of coiled up with conceptual thoughts, with conceptual states from endless time until now. And so, we can't just straighten ourselves out immediately. That's why Longchenpa says, even though you've realized the primordial liberation of the view, if you don't train in meditation, then samsara will not come to an end. So we need to, once we've gained this initial recognition, we need to train in meditation persistently over time for a prolonged duration. We need to maintain our meditation training, and then if through that prolonged training, then for sure the afflictions will gradually become liberated. All the afflictions that torment our mind, attachment, aversion, ignorance, and so on, these will be naturally liberated, naturally purified within the natural state. They will come to dissipate and release, just like clouds dissolving and disappearing back into space. If we train in this way, then we will, the more we train in this way, the closer we will come to enlightenment, to manifesting complete enlightenment. But that aside, even in daily life, actually, we'll feel the benefits and blessings of this practice. As we go about our business, dealing with our family life and work life and so on, we'll find that we are more easygoing, we're more positive, optimistic, much more content, just happier with things and less triggered, less troubled. If the opposite happens, if we find that we're not content, we see faults in everything, problems everywhere, that's a sign that something's not quite right with our meditation. Like recently I was in Australia and I met a man who lived kind of 24/7, like a 4-star, 5-star kind of lifestyle. Like most luxurious surroundings, best Mercedes-Benz, always being served upon. But he was never satisfied. No matter how sort of luxurious the surroundings were, he always would find fault. The service isn't good, the food's not good enough. Just always listing faults. So this just goes to show that without meditation, without cultivating a state of meditation, it's really not possible to gain happiness through wealth, status, position, and power, right? If we fail to reduce our afflictions, attachment, aversion, and ignorance, it's simply impossible to reach a state of happiness. So this being the case, if we train in this way, train in cultivating the state of train in meditation like this, of course we will come nearer and nearer to the state of enlightenment, nearer and nearer to the wondrous state of enlightenment. And even in this life, in the meantime, we'll experience happiness and ease. And if we do experience that, if we see that we are becoming more content, more easygoing, more open, then that's a sure sign that our meditation is on track.
Meditation section tambu tam gom dang nipa de gom go bi gunsen tanda tel shen do yo di kanada gom ki go bi gunsen de tagi la gom go res la ana gom go gunsen kan res la na gom de manje ba ina pe chana ta de ti lung do mo ko tang ju du te ta lung mo ko tang chana ram so de tu se mo ko sha gare chitang gi pa na 미지 칼라시 부서긴 게 비디오나 마신 국국서로 다 전도게 되네 마신 백해가지고나 칼라시 무시 우주 söö이나 그런 마세지 밀 칼라테잖아 칼라 그런 칼라 그런 용어 말 미 칼라 그런 용어 배들 곰만 잡았대 랑 곰만 잡제 간다고 카테 우리 밀 시시시시 가랑 염리 마셔봐이나 빼나 국 해가지고 칼라서 랑그 마세다 찍거래 얘네야 빼나 두어두어지나 두라서는 미 먹고 잡사 먹고 두어 다 양조 파르갈 때 출갈 때 디레체나 랑티니 추 파르갈 마선 거지 티니 추낭 니마지 양조디 나나 데미시도 어야 티니 니마지 쓰나미다 오티레지 갑도 키어서 거지 티니 양조 나시도로 베티나시 곰야겐 티야 빼나 주와 주킨 양조 파르로 마도 주당 데데겐다 보다 빼나 칼라소게 미지기 칼라신부스 밀테 랑 마세다 보다 티니 빼나 뮤직 빼당 키워드는 가서 뮤직 뱀비기 땅 키워드는 암조 원바체 랑 암조 미고지 뮤직 키워에는 그 뮤직 님 부쇼는 미 탐제 할래로 근데 코코랑 암조 원바이도 코코랑 띠띠 뮤직 님부터 고우 말이 좀 된 되게 돈나라 벨로 링고 년보 되는 망고 송셔 땡이 되면 요 계란서 담제 로그인이야 그래서 나마 배제 요사요스 공부 이제 대대송 레슨 된 되게
So, in terms of my, in terms of where in terms of my book, I've been, what I've been discussing relates to the first point, the first section of the second chapter, which is about meditation. The second section of the chapter on meditation is about the need for meditation, why we need to meditate. And I've included a lot of excellent quotations from the scriptures, but we don't have time to go through those. If we don't meditate, then if we don't meditate and train ourselves, then we could be, for example, like a chef. Say you have a really excellent chef who can make the most delicious, exquisite meals that delight and please other people, but the chef doesn't eat their own food. Then the chef, is going through putting all this effort in, tiring themselves out, making this great food that pleases other people, but they don't gain any experience. They don't experience that delicious food themselves, right? We could also use the example of a captain of a ship who ferries other people from one shore to another, ferries people to safety, but rather than get off on the other side, he then, travels back and stays on the boat, and then maybe after some time there's a tsunami or a terrible storm, and the captain ends up drowning. This captain who has ferried other people to a safe shore, but ends up drowning himself. Or, for example, a musician. Say there's someone who's a really gifted musician, can play just exquisite music that pleases people, that is so delightful to people, but that person is deaf, so they can't hear their own music. This and other examples are taught by Buddha in the sutras. Buddha taught many really beautiful and detailed stories to convey these points. Some of these I've shared in my book, so if you want to read those stories and go into more detail, you can read them there.
Yeah. 나라서 곰께서 시리 딱 야부 담마시 디사 다 이쪽바 나셔 다 공다 나라서 뭐 공다 서버다 니군 주도 니와니 아쪽바 나셔 그러마도 딱 야부다 저거 심부서 따와도 곰바들 곰바 쪽바다 쪽바 곰바다 곰바 따와도 딱 조금 더 비치고야 돼요. 이인데 가나라서 디게 나라 칸세스나 빠르르 뭐제게 되는 직수인데 되게 나라 뭐랑도도 잡아 탁지도도 잡아 대응조도도 잡아서 숨송자 그래서 따와지고는 독서 예시래 따와지고 탁지도도 잡아서는 따와래 뭐랑도도 잡아서게 따와래 탁지도도 잡아서는 곰바래 대응조도도 잡아서 근데 잡아래 디디 예시리 강사 따와지고 숨 예시래 디 조바심 비켜줘 야 디디 강사 다당 알아서 양들 곰바시기 양 잡아가 그럼 제일 주도 니와리 시와부터 시엔 되기도 야 단다 대할 잡아시는 강치가 양 저도 상고 tati i chigi kor tete ye tang yo ma ta tanda ngaro lam nyamsu lendu kama tozi chigi nyamsu lendang xere ma toge ta choba tere ngi dudu si tanda xe xare na penna fargab chine gom yaku jaundu kama nyamomba tamche para nganti ki mitan chepa tang xe ngi kore teni nyamomba tarong gom yaku jana dungi dhuba rang toldu kandu ko chado tarong gom yaku jana kantong la kumba shuwa na xe nam tok samche tina xe tati choba kang xe ngi jer xe gende tanda dudu si ma xe na yang bagi coba dah yang mandel dua cara tu, tanda tertuju siapa jelas.
So yesterday we discussed the view, and then now we've been discussing meditation, and later this afternoon we're going to talk about conduct. So we have view, meditation, and conduct. In the Great Perfection, though, the view, meditation, and conduct, like I said, they're not separate, distinct things. The view is connected to the meditation, and meditation is connected to conduct. All of them are interconnected. Really, they're not separate things. Just like Patrul-Rinpoche's 3 lines that strike the vital points, these 3 slightly different statements are basically talking about the same thing. Recognizing the natural state within oneself, realizing it, realizing that decisively, and coming to total conviction in that state. That's a very loose translation of those three. But those three famous lines essentially are all talking about one single view, the very same view, but highlighting different aspects of that view. So this is a unique quality of the Great Perfection teachings. View, meditation, and conduct are not separate or different things. There are no real divisions. This being the case, you might think, oh, well, aren't we, we're supposedly talking about the meditation now, but this sounds just like the view, a repetition of the view. And then later this afternoon, we're going to be talking about conduct, and you might think, well, it sounds like we're just talking about the same thing, what's going on here? For sure, when practicing as a practitioner, there's a slight difference between view, meditation, and conduct in the way that you approach them, but essentially, really there are no divisions. In brief, just to mention a little bit about the conduct now, before we go into it in more detail in the afternoon. The conduct in this context can be explained in terms of 3 stages. So first of all, recognizing thoughts arising in the way, recognizing thoughts like recognizing an acquaintance in the street. Secondly, recognizing thoughts like a snake untying itself. And then recognizing and liberating. So recognizing and liberating thoughts like meeting an acquaintance in the street, recognizing and liberating thoughts like a snake untying itself. And thirdly, like a thief entering an empty house. That's what I'm saying.
Oh yeah, that I'm not discussing. Dinita, Chitangi, Dangsang, Boom, Tam Chikpa in a chat, Tati Maji, the Shen, Masan, Cabrata, Mduke, Yinayam, Winda get to Kujana, Tinsi Cabra temperature, said Ludu to Somre. Minda was in a Cabra stamp, but a Cabra Madame Minda Chakamare, the Gunsenji shower. But in a Zobachimbu Gom de Gom Chandana, Minda with Gunsenji Machina, Zobachimbu Gom de Cabra Power Haku Marva. The Zobachimbu Gom de Cabra Power Dansa. Did a gom take with time to the chick buying in the Wajita. Did a gom unichero motic balayan, doing Intela, Yore, Ransangela, Yore, Sanjus and La Gomjuna, Yore. They did a long time till a gom making the church petty of my time till gom Yore. They ended the gom time to chick buying there. My dead with time to meditations. The meditation teaching Tamje is watching more than chick buying. My meditation chick, the chick Tamje is watching boy in the game. 지 착자신 부인되게도 딘자지기 또 당상 두들들 너로 친구지 요되게 기트라 통도 당랑 롭종 수 매바다 딘데기 딘지가 통제 채우 매고 딘데기 막고 인기르데 딘데지 데제 탐제 데 저바치 보고 말에다 아스키노 남남 초든지네 베르자라기 초든지네 대교 탐제디 탐제지 곰테 곰스기 탐제지 꼴리지 찍바르고 이다 띠싸와기는 말했어.
Nagarjuna said, when something is unusual, then its unique qualities need to be talked about. So if something's unusual, then we need to highlight its qualities, right? So likewise, the meditation, the Great Perfection, is something very unique, very distinct. If we don't explain the reasons for that, then it's not possible for us to recognize how unique and distinct the Great Perfection is, right? If we don't talk about its qualities in comparison to other things, for instance. These days, the meditation of the Great Perfection is very unique and special. These days, though, people seem to understand meditation just as like one lump sum thing, like meditation, regardless of which tradition or level of teaching we're talking about. Meditation is just one thing. It's just sitting in a certain posture, in a certain way. So whether it be, at least from what I've seen and heard, it seems this is how meditation is understood these days, regardless of whether you're talking about like meditation at the level of the Shravaka teachings or the vehicle of characteristics, or whether you're talking about, meditation of the Great Perfection. These seem to be understood, mistakenly understood, as just being the same thing, the same type of meditation. This is a big mistake. If this is how people are understanding meditation, this is a big mistake and a big error. All types of meditation are not the same. They are certainly not the same. And to think that meditation simply means sitting in the sevenfold posture of Arochana, and that is meditation full stop. Regardless, that is meditation full stop across the board, and that all different types of meditation have the same qualities. That's a big mistake.
Jiwa nirchu ki something second gom jiyo. Darab jebi something second gom niwa yo. Dine deshin chekwa gebi dine something second ta gom di sum yo di kala. Jiwa nirchu ki something second di chidange chiro muti kwa ta namba sanje ta yogin tamche la ta chi gom yi second tamche la jiwa nirchu ki gom tere. Jiwa nirchu ki jiwa sana pugu sere. Narang jiwa pugu second di kaja yo re. Dine jiwa second la sum yo re. Kelun ki jiwa second chekta. Genshungi chiwa sakin tawata. Ya tene genshungi chiwa, kelungi chiwa. Ya tene digi tene kansa sana chiwa la sumgar. Genshungi chiwa chikche, kelungi chiwa niche chikangara wata. Genshungi chiwa, kelungi chiwa. 다이 게임 단다 주거든. 너나 근데 미키와 부중중의 지와스랍샤래. 미야 용 초동야스라 되니 다셔서全巴서. 되니 진도 강라 양치디 연대 매긴 당 등줄라 되니 양추기 깨잖아 지와스라. 연대 여긴 졸라 되니 나랑서나 지소래다. 연대 여긴 좀 미천부 깨지시고. 진도 강라 킬링기 지와스 genshun기 지와 다치 강 지가 다치 장입니다. Piendu sumi yorite. Dan di tanda jiwa nirchuk ki solgum sikandi jiwa sedu kanga lumbu ki kom serta. Tonda sana ji ngarang so chidang ki jikten tamal ki kom tila jiwa ki nirchuk ki kom nusilare. Ta di jiwa nirchuk ki kom di kanda jila segor seba sem nepa chiku. Ta tangi singa nam tok kaka ni degyu tila. Tini kom yite nam tok kaka. Nam tok ke machuk shasham. Tini kap tiki gyundu rindu. Ring sone barkap sem gyundu basana ushi yoyde kaya. 바르캅지 준줄로 도스도 비트래 연구요. 강쌤 코로나 니바죠. 쌤 쓰기 빼메게. 아따쌤들은 뭐시 얘기야. 아따 뭐시 얘기다 다음에 뒤서 거죠. 테니쌤 코로나 게 연된 되게 양 something 사트네. 테니 세퍼사이팅 세퍼추이팅 인제 세게 쌤 기타 어떤 두죠. 테니 그가 바깥 띵인제 숙제고죠. 슈 탐지기 때문에 탐지야 땅도 나랑서 공부하는 거죠. 되겠다고. Ini separate meeting in the main also na me misigito. Ya tina sinchi ta tingin zigi salmong gomyo tinzo tamchi de semne ba. De so jine shine ya bonne ne. Shine zigi bisana ne tu bhaina. De tite wi tingin zigi tu so de jigden ki tumong ngo tu to ko. De ya ka bro samba ya ki bo. Nam to tamche ga ro. Tinra ya yongyu yo. Dia jigden tamal be na yo ti tarwa tu gu mare. Ya tarwa san to gu mare. chen digi de ni hayul de ki 로 치다 yapchak tinda pe hayu la de ki bu do tinda yong su re su kham da su mi ge hayu ke ju ge tinda ya nam to ka ni de de na ya tinda yong gu ta pe na ga la na yi gi do yi na che ge om se ge do ta ya na yi gi do je ha do ji da ya na ti ri do ta ta na chiru mu ti bi la ina da ka ina tinda ji na ba ji la chen dektil te ji nam to ka ti chi pu la ko ba kan se che pa kap de la mu su rang mi ge na ngen do rang ge la rang de rang da mu ni mi da mi tu ge ge she ge do tinda ya sam ding ge ni ba ge sha ge yo de tinzo cha so na tu mo mu du du ge de tu mo mai bu du du ma re di la sem ne ba de la ni nga rang so na ji ba nir chu ge sam ten se re tan di tek ba chen bu ge de ne sang ge da rang so nang ba sang ji ge nam ta na ti cha gom di 제단기 투몽 것이 두규 잠지다 투몽기 대기 두규 잠지를 마도게 털도 그 산지 고방은 뭐지 되네 그러봐 톱토고 말해 딜라티 지원 예수가 삼대에서 다 가시기 샘디 되네 네바 자와 많이 바샘 간데 조부도 간데 시합기도 딜라 어떤 양 검지 경주야 야 우파라당 술을내 우라 삼당나 야신이 두대 두당 뭐지였다 우 중국의 우파라당도 강산 팔아 로선서 양 옥수를 낸데 강야 지금 샘수로 랩송 삼주기 딘데기 신이 두땅 먹고 저 신이 두땅데 디 학동 말해 얘네 단단 가서 지금 검디 지도 하다 가서 단다 디간 리그 퍼와드나들아 제가 흥서긴도 양 딜루드 腾다다 셀데니 디 다들 때는 곰jal교 두아 이여 달라 때는 곰jal교 수라 때는 곰jal교 렉자라 때는 룽조 할람 때는 옥당교 때는 할람 렉자라 때는 곰jal교야 진짜 곰네 신이 두비여래 디 곰니 타로토고 말해 디 근생기 쳤나더니 시간이 지고 곰슬라 다들 먹고 싶게 다들 지지도 좋서 말해 그 주주도 지쳐서 잠깐만
In the various scriptures, like the Ornament of the Sutras, the Prajnaparamita scriptures, Longchenpa's teachings, and so on, we find explanations of many different types of meditation, so divisions of different types and styles of meditation. But in short, we can condense all the many different types of meditation into 3 different types. So, first of all, the mundane meditation of non-Buddhists. Secondly, the meditation that differentiates the true nature. And thirdly, the virtuous meditation of Tathagatas. These 3. So about the first, the mundane meditation of non-Buddhists, or more literally, this is the mundane meditation of the childish. This refers to, when we talk about children or the childish, we can understand that in 3 different ways. We can use the word childish to refer to people who aren't very learned or developed, compared to people who are learned. We can also use the word childish to refer to people who are just young in age, right, like in physical age. And there are other meanings or usages of the word childish as well. So here when we say childish, the mundane meditation of the childish, we're talking about those who are childish in the sense that they lack learning or understanding. So here we're talking about basically foolish meditation, foolish or worldly meditation. A meditation that is simply a process of stilling the mind, bringing thoughts to a halt, suppressing thoughts, and then maintaining that state that is free of thoughts. Through training in this way, this is a type of shamatha or calm-abiding meditation, and by training in this way, one can develop the power of mind, of conceptual mind, and cultivate different miraculous powers. There are actually, when we talk about mind has so many qualities and aspects. We won't go into that now, but through this type of meditation, just stilling the mind and halting thoughts and prolonging that state, the kind of intrinsic power of mind can be cultivated. Different types of samadhis can be attained, samadhis that allow one to walk on water, to pass through fire without being burnt, things like that. These are types of common siddhis or common accomplishment, worldly accomplishment, that can be brought about through this type of shamatha. This is a type of one-pointed shamatha, right? Cultivating a one-pointed state of mind. This type of meditation can also bring about a temporary state of happiness, because thoughts are brought to a halt, right? However, this type of meditation does not and cannot lead to liberation from samsara. It's possible that it can lead to rebirth in the form and formless realms. So rebirth as a god in one of the form or formless realms, where one remains in a state, in sort of luxurious state, free of thoughts for a very, very long period of time and for many lifetimes. So the way one might practice this meditation is perhaps focusing on the syllable Om, or kind of a worldly deity, focusing the mind really one-pointedly on that object, until the object or the worldly deity actually, but to the extent that object or deity becomes like directly visible, like a direct perception. If it's a deity, then you actually see the deity, like you can actually interact with that deity in your direct perception. As I've said, this type of training, this type of meditation can lead to the accomplishment of common siddhis and common happiness, but it cannot lead to the uncommon or supreme siddhis, and it does not lead to liberation or enlightenment. There are different ways of training in shamatha. So as I've just said, this kind of one-pointed focus. Also, sometimes people will train in shamatha just observing thoughts. observing thoughts arise and move and pass. Some people will train with the breath, so just focusing on the inhalation of the breath, the exhalation of the breath. Some people will focus on sound, like using a singing bowl or the sound of a bell, and just fix their mind on the sound and rest in that way. So different objects can be used, objects of form, sound, smell, texture, and so on. In a sense, meditating focused on the breath is using texture or tactile sensation as a focal object. In any case, through these different ways, as I've said, the state of shamatha can be accomplished, but liberation cannot.
지방 예주게 삼대에서 지발로 숨이요래서 genshöngi chibas pugu chungjungla chibas migembola gembasa gore dinashengi kelungi chibas kewasa da mishibala chibas la tengi chigi yore ngaras beja da tno chigla kepak chibas tangi tegi jekyu tire kepak soso kewula chibas la gore pakpala ne sanjigi demba tongtengi la pakpala ke pakpas la gore pakpa mayimbi de soso kewula chibas la chibala sumyore genshöngi chibas tene kelungi chiwa tene kepak chiwa tada di kansana di chiwa yerchu ge so de se de so so kiu gomre es ko tati pe important na ya tenso ya boshi ti kyolo.
So about there are three ways that the word childish is used, right? I mentioned two of those. I couldn't remember the third. Sometimes my mind is like computer freezing, you know? But anyway, now the computer is unfrozen. So the three meanings of this word childish. First of all, the first is age. So someone can be childish in the sense of young in physical age compared to someone who's older. That's the first meaning. Second is childish in the sense of unlearned, so unwise, right? Someone's childish compared to someone who's wise. And the third meaning is that childish can refer to ordinary beings in comparison to noble beings. So ordinary beings in comparison to noble beings, meaning bodhisattvas noble bodhisattvas on the bhumis. So in this case, when we're talking about these three types of meditation, right? The mundane meditation of the childish, the meditation that differentiates the true nature, and the virtuous meditation of the Tathagatas, and we've been discussing the first, the mundane meditation of the childish. So in this case, childish is referring to ordinary beings in contrast to noble beings. So the mundane meditation of childish, ordinary beings. This is important to understand.
Oh yeah, yeah, that is it. Tangi the chidaki shini ketang kornjik shekosare. Tatandang de shini the kanji chik tar for to show me the medrum tene shini ketang tumung shinan shini the kanji kegre second teshabaina. Tene shini kepala tene guji go re, genji go re. Then the kanata gudila ale tire kansa gyuji go gyutela kansana nyepak nga pangwa pangcha nga ti tang duji geten basene pangcha chi da nyempu ji ni yore ten du kala ta gom ya ke kyu tala pangcha nga ti gi nyempu ge ti ni di den sona te gom ge gres adi gom di tumung gom gi tire ta di inji mi ji jokpa simbu ge kecha mare chakja simbu kecha mare kerim zorim kecha mare chirul moti bu gom ji ke we na pena ige atta wachigla sambotan gomne yana bindu doguchi takjam tila shine yadron di gedi mena tine shine ke bi gyud sangama gyugin de sangama tin gyugin de samada pangje ge ngaji ta tila nyembo ngaji nyembo geji tini de dengwa tede di shine tamje ke basic jire ya zoba sembola di yonan digre menan digre tarong yonin di taro practice yakbu jene ko dawa mangu practice sewa ida zoba sebu gomjola tarong improve chayong gore nyamang aranzo dine kongre kanse digi bonda khen boche peche da di dunjur boche lama gebo choge peche ha boche polo khenchen sare bonda khen boche monne ge samki meke bi zoba chi bonna jorje kong dine nyama ngazo kimbu dasar boche sungu dosa ko shine tak tak losum gom ta zoba chambu da kazo gom ro 근데 신이 따다 로숨 거는 이 신이 기타도 공소바 첨부 고민했으네 고바지 대성원데 근데 신이 세겐데 남중지 말에 백계신 거지래 근데 그러나 때 신이 고버 제와라 투문게 람나디 때네 주다겐데 가지 상거래에서나 예박나 방 두지 겟 세컨데 칸세서나 신이께 주기 땅이 디나 페스탈로 시울랍셔 레레레 살울랍셔 다 드링인데 노트 제니지 이슬람 디코롱롱 데는 가도 사르스만 딩인데 딘 노티스 젠팅이 캐나바 두두두두두 제네다 주주 중앙과 사르시긴스.
So it seems like I need to talk a bit about shamatha, how shamatha, the state of shamatha is cultivated. We don't have much time, but anyway, in order to cultivate shamatha, one needs certain causes and certain conditions. So what are the causes for shamatha? In order to cultivate shamatha, one needs to relinquish or discard the 5 faults, and to cultivate the remedy of the 5 applications. The eight. So we need to discard the 5 faults and then cultivate the 8 remedial factors. If we do this, then the state of shamatha will arise, will be developed. These are not points unique to the Great Perfection. These are not points unique to the Great Perfection by any means. These are just very general, universal points. They apply also to the non-Buddhist practice of shamatha meditation. In short, simply speaking, in order to cultivate the state of shamatha, one needs to discard 5 specific faults and to cultivate 8 remedial factors. In terms of the practice of the Great Perfection, if one has these causes, these qualities, that's great. It will help one's Great Perfection meditation practice kind of improve faster, so to speak. But if one doesn't have these qualities, that's also okay. For instance, we can look at Polo Kenshin. He's an amazing Great Perfection yogi that some of the older students here will probably be familiar with this master. Khenpo Daze Rinpoche told us about Polo Kenshin and how he trained in shamatha, just in shamatha, for 3 years, and then based on that shamatha practice he engaged in Great Perfection practice. So that's to say that shamatha is by no means unimportant. We shouldn't disregard the importance of shamatha. How to cultivate shamatha? As I've said, discard the 5 faults and apply the 8 remedial factors. If we were go through those in detail, it would just simply take up too much time. I've explained them in proper detail in my book.
야, 다 담보 예뻐나 나도데 곰지 잡고 신내지 길을 깨고서도 경나데 방거마도 경나데 마하나 신내데 산다란 게 되네 가랑소에는 디치 두고 말 신내데 길을 깨기 말해 딘도 가라 당고 경나데 강아서 반주 렐로 땅에 담가 제스 진구 드미 제도 제가는 예봐 때 방제스라 다 당고 곰자데 곰지 라마 곰지 치바이나 렐로 지나 땅아다 드링다 용사 말에 곰다 자고요다 다 곰 용사 말에 또 나기도 드링아 보링도 곰자 용사 말 마시 곰자 용가 셈 코롱디 교비게 누구나 신고 빨리게 직바라 라란도 슈구룽 케로가나 시 딘데지 두가라 코산이 사자지가 니글 코 거기 마셈 코롱 시가 코 딘데지 셈디 빼 육데기지라 코롱 빼 미기 장축니 셈 육주들 코롱 빼 액티브 레시오 조인도 가라 셈 데글 거기 마 딘도 가라 곰 야기스 랍도 가마 켜니 조이고 미 같이 들어도 지금 남기 빼 중을 지금 더바 되어도 강이 조인다 보다 지금 라바창아 니자 자니 조음도 라바창아 계속 무슨이 조도 디르스 켄트도 진수 곰 오브젝트에서 딘도 가마 레로 메바 담보다 레로도 방거마 또 레로도 마방나 곰케기 마 담보 레로 되래서 니빠 담아 제바스 니빠 담아데 강거서는 곰주 강을 그 빈두 곰게임바 아 곰게임바 가리 곰게 답에다이나 저런 무디기나 옴세 곰고도 번서 옴세 치결시를 옴 거고 땅 아랑저이나 아 세게도 고교래 빈두세 곰교 다양한 지 야부 곰게에서나 미파는 뭐지기 단단 아랑서 디 톱쇼 나와 지송도 세반주 톱쇼 질랩 잡베베 간 딘나는 상기 좀 된데 고도 곰기 송도 다시 내자도 상기 좀 된데 고야 두누마테는 뭐니게 첨비데 굳이 탈라미 누나쇼 사테틸라 포커스치네 gomju tene pe kamanze gechen boyin ti gomna shine ke message ge gyula tene sangi chomden de ge chelab june ningje tang chanshuk ge sem dang ya tene tsosa pata jiba jangwa shiu phanyu shine ge ngarang so ge tene namba sangi ge shine ngon zo to ba chomden de gomna yabu yore ese tene sungsha do haru ba chege te indu kana chapro soru rangro ge shine gordang la tisong ti ngarang so special ngarang so gomre ti mana di gomdi inji minji sangi chomden de go kyaram so sem ne kyuchibu gomna ige a gomna de hung gomna de gre ya tene chi dorji dawjil tana de gre diu dawjil gomna de khana gomre ti gomgyu ti ire damga se a damga jegyu me rang focus kawa china tila sem ma che ba chene tila ne gyu tila damga che ba jingut se ni de chile che ba jingut se de jing se de ni jo se ba ni jo gyu tila jing se go se ge ba sem khurson ba nam ta pe shuk chim bu chene kyaran so New York City le to gendo ya ta ka tila sa sa de kawa ina Jackson ha de ina kawa di kan se कहाँ रोता है वहाँ तो देश में कहाँ है वो Manhattan के city ना ये तमिल जो नाम तो जिंदा शुक्र बुच्चे के तेरा गोपास नाम तो गोपास है चिंगु नहीं था चिंगु नहीं थी मुझे की तेने कर पाता नाराज गोम के मुझे लेने गए या लेलो तेता दमगा जेबानी थी उन्डो लेने गए उन्डो गोम जाक्यू की तेने उन्डो तो मुझे है रवा तेरे उन्डो लेने गए थे तंगो लेलो जैसा वो गोम करा जगह मारो उन्डो लेने गए damwa chena gomju khorong yo mare ten du kang ta damwa khang yin na no ta gi se na chi tin ni de ondol no ge ni le lo ta damwa cha ba jingu se ge de mushil ne ba gom mushil ne ge ti jingu se ana jing song ni to ge yang na ne sam no dra me ta mo nam tok pen me ge te na chu khol ge na ji ko so na go bare ti gom song gom ki khorong mare ta ki ni de me go re ten du mi che ba se le du mi che se nam tok ki ne ke chu ne je ta ke ne ge je ka khang yin ne sa ti gom chu ro ta 두미지 와서 님부 때문에 오가 출로도다 당아 포커스 때문에 그러봐 거기 나랑 가와이는 검작사데 빈둘에 이날에 알아 이날에 또좀 된데 꾸이는 티랑 삼도 양남도 요르 야 티랑 포커스 요래 대산이 뭐좀 양 미화는 거지 양배 님부직 손도 남도 빼는 또좀 된데 지금 빼나 좀 된데 아 셈때도 강대 뒤뒤 산때 미토나 뒤뒤 우이 죽더라 뒤뒤 샤블라 뒤뒤 군도라 뒤뒤 남살라 뒤뒤 진짜 진짜 셈도 지금 알아서 간세 봉과서로 딱 알아서 봉과티 되네 메토 포르되긴 하지 셈디 샥샥 투와 크롱 고또 탐질 포커스네 거라 잡되나 대한 곰신이 두고래서 다 중좀 좀 찍으랑 찍대 버려 봐 어디지 디디 강다 대도제는 되네 된적이 되네 셈 이용선은 두미체 봐서 남도 년부 메템바 년부게 되는 디미체 양 두체 봐서도 다 디치게 다 두제바서 그때 딱 남도 양 뺑년부터 뺑년부식심부터네 년부식심부터 어떻게 양곰주로 년부식 최소나 구바이나 딤딤딤 구바 최소도 오페티나 진짜게 남도 년부터 식심 땅만 남도 계속 다 이득만 되네 뺑년부터 상부터 뺑년부터 쉬우지게 나라서 그때네 디체샤나 대양 곰도 매워 차도 이제 인도 강라 엔장 그때네 두지식 친구야 지금 말해서 그때네 띵아디 tene gom ki tangshu tene pangju nga tere lelo pangore damwa jeba pangore chingwe pangore du mi jeba de pangore nyembu tengore yang du chegu mang sum de te pang tinga de pangjare ya tatila atu mi da.
So we need to discard these 5 faults, otherwise it's just impossible to develop the state of shamatha. So what are these 5? I'll go through them briefly one by one. The first is laziness. You just fall into laziness, a kind of despondent state, thinking, I don't feel like meditating today. I won't practice now. I don't feel so good physically now. I'm a bit tired. Or meditation, it feels a bit boring. You just fall prey to laziness and you don't engage. You don't actually sit down and meditate. Our mind actually doesn't like staying still. It doesn't like the state of meditation, because since beginning this time up until now, our mind has just been habituated to being so active. It is so used to being active, just like a piece of paper constantly tossed here and there in the wind. That being the case when we think about sitting down to meditate, meaning making the mind still, then the mind just has this like aversion to that, right? That's why some people They might even be very like lively, alert people, but when they sit down to meditate, they just fall asleep, right? Or someone picks up their mala to do like, some recitation, and they find themselves just feeling so sleepy and nodding off. It's because of the mind's habituation. So this is the first fault we need to abandon, laziness. Secondly, the second fault is forgetting the instructions. So, okay, how are you training in shamatha? Are you doing it focused on a bindu, focused on the syllable a, or maybe non-Buddhist practitioners, they might train in shamatha focused on the syllable om. Mipa Rinpoche, he composed a practice called Treasury of Blessings, where one visualizes Buddha Shakyamuni, and Buddha Shakyamuni vividly present before one, endowed with all of the enlightened marks and signs, and one takes the form of Shakyamuni as one's focal object for shamatha. So if we practice like this, as Mipa Rinpoche taught, then of course Buddha Shakyamuni's form acts as a focal point for our shamatha. But there are added benefits, because by focusing our mind on Shakyamuni's form, we also receive the blessings of the Buddha, and this also kind of helps us develop compassion, bodhicitta, and so on. So there are many blessings and benefits of taking the Buddha's form as our focal object. Mipa Rinpoche and also Shabkar, they both said that Buddha Shakyamuni is the best focal object for shamatha meditation. Otherwise, if you just want to develop the state of shamatha alone, like the state of one-pointed shamatha, then you can use any object though, right? A stone, a pebble, any ordinary object. In any case, the second fault we need to abandon is forgetting the instructions, which means forgetting what you're actually doing, like what your mind is focusing on. The third fault is to fall into dullness or agitation. So either you become really dull, like you fall asleep and become drowsy, or your mind just becomes really agitated and busy, like as busy as, Jackson Heights or Manhattan. How many people are like thronging on the streets there? Your mind is that busy, just filled with movement, or like busy like boiling water. For among these 5 qualities, the first 2 harm the preliminary aspect, or the preliminary aspects of meditation, and the 3rd, 4th, and 5th harm or obstruct the main part, meaning the meditation proper. If we fall prey to laziness and we forget the instructions, if we fall prey to laziness, we're not actually going to sit down and do the meditation, right? If we forget the instruction, we're also not going to actually be engaging in the practice. So these 2 faults obstruct the preparatory or preliminary aspects of the practice, whereas falling prey to dullness and agitation and the next 2 faults, they impede or harm the meditation proper, the main part. So the 4th fault then is no application, meaning you don't apply yourself to the practice. You're sitting in meditation, but then a thought arises, and that thought takes your mind away from the focal object. Instead of bringing your mind back to the focal object, you just let the thought run, you don't apply yourself. You think, oh, there's a thought, fine, and you just run with it. Instead of, when a thought arises, say you're focusing on your object and then a thought arises, you should bring your focus back to that object, right? Place your mind back on the object. So if you fail to do that, you fail to apply yourself like that, then that's the 4th fault. Mipa Rinpoche gave some very beautiful advice actually in relation to his Treasury of Blessings, the practice of Buddha Shakyamuni. He said if when you're practicing, ideally you focus your mind one-pointedly on the Buddha's, in the full form of the Buddha. But if the mind is not focusing and it won't stay still, then you can take the mind and focus it on specific parts of the Buddha. So maybe focus your mind on the Ushnisha, the crown of the Buddha. Focus the mind there for a bit. Then bring your mind down and focus on the Buddha's legs or his seat, for instance. And you can kind of rotate your mind's attention to the different parts of the Buddha. It's a bit like a bee. A bee in a pot. Sort of, it's sometimes at the bottom, sometimes at the top, but it's contained. So ideally, that's also a method. If your mind just won't stay still on the whole form, you can lead the mind lead the mind around like that on the different aspects of Buddha's form. It's also a possible method for cultivating shamatha, but ideally you just rest the mind on the full form of the Buddha. So that was the first fault. The fifth then is an over-application. So you are sort of overly diligent or overly earnest in applying remedies. You are a bit too caught up in, you're a bit over-vigilant. A thought arises and then you, and instead of just placing your mind back on the object and letting be, you sort of then start thinking, oh, a thought arose, that was terrible, I need to really focus, and you overdo it. And that overdoing actually obstructs the meditation. It's a bit like a string. If you wind a string up so tight, the string can end up snapping, right? So these are the 5 faults we need to abandon: laziness, forgetting the instructions, dullness and agitation, not applying, and over-applying.
Oh yeah, that dignity pangere. Didn't that? Nyembude counter na debata chick, the Dunsulwa Shinjan and Tembashin Samba and Pangyum Duji Gay no syllable. That did it in Nyembude. That in the Kana Tabut Tanga the Majan, Depa, Chick, Dumba Niche, Tolwa Sumche, Shinjan Shije, Temba Ungache, Shishin Dunche, Trupche, Semba Dunche, Tangyum. Dujeti chick get so the Duji gets in Tires. That dig it and Yembuti can digna dig panjare, digna Yembure, the Gama. Tinyembuti Panjana the Kampang Horsena, Tambu Lelu in Yembuti Kangasena, Tepatan, Dumbatan, Zorwatan, the Shinjang Sumtre, Shitre, Dumba, Tepa, Dumba, Zorwa, Shinjang, Secretary Shitre. Comes the Tempa Secretary interest. Passing in the Petilasi, bombing the junction Yakordi, Conjunction Devasa, Chitang, the big mode cover, the big mode cover in the ground, and the Gomes Javichuna, some interest you know, the level of the mail shop, the into Tepare. Dumba, the Tepani Petty Chick, Dumba Tilla, Septin, Tilla, Samutan, Tigentilla, Dumba, the Tepata, the Mani Peche, some Notilla Gahumeno for the Sam Shutan Marvati, into Dumba, the Gantilla. Chi Nalanza and Semian Dian Coron game, till I interested again, Pilatine, Dumba. So was again the Better Tunduchi. That's Tunduchi and a little milk shatterwa. I say, Maring, Gom Jabber, the Gom Majanga, the lost some Trolla Trosha, San Pitotan. I say, Gom Second Kitchen, not in the Gom de Majamna, not in your move on to Gamari, Gom de Majamna, Galatine. Things again, thinking Mares and Louis when it can solve a chikorwa. So, second, better soon. Shinjang again, make a practice Yapuchi, the Shinjang, that the Gomia, show your jam, the Pan and World Cups and all, make it in a football, I to come back and Jutan, the shoes do up. The Tinajins are willing to tell us and our Subuzo, the child not around to Kol organizing Kurkutra. The Tosa years to the Chong to go to the Mig Subut, the Tapachamu to a long road to get to this Subut training Yapuchana, the Bear Jutila, the Shinjang said. The Pakap Sembia, Shinjang, Kawala Shat to last dead again. Karite, I didn't beat in 7 shot again, the Terechabo, the Indicala, Tilat and Shinjang said, Tachi, me soon she did, Lelogin Yambares, Lelogin Yampa she. Then Leloche, Ta. Damma Jessica, Damma Jigging in with the concept Temper. Temper the concept Damma Majib, Lami, Karisum, did Damma the Majib, that could go to the concept in the Horamuji, Tombachum in the Chilla, same days, like that's same that you can Mandin and go come back to do something. Yarchi, Damma of Tamunia, Korang, Damari. Did Damma the Majib, Tembas, Tembas again, Mijib, in the Gomgiti, Majib, Tembas. The Sheshins again, the Midanza can mindfulness in a chick. That answer packet show to combat Japan, catch a shit on Sheshins again. Rangi goes to the country to Samutane, Tana Kawala Yang do Kailatine, Dichido, Gombi, Sindikisam to the Rangarala in a Sheshin Jenny, and around Junjun, Sheshin will use in Jiva, make it in a selection will show you. Tantil Sheshin, the Lashana Yang, Zopachimbo, takes him to Sugina, Sheshin the East, Sheshin. Sheshin, Tata Sheshin, the Rangi, gets a country to combat country to 나 장주 선바지 저바 지금 니 장주 선 나신 깨지 시기 돼. 니 장주 선바 나신 공바 계기 돼. 니 장주 선바 나신 게 삼로 땅게 돼서 따기 때라 셰신 세워. 야 곰이나 나 곰티라니 아들라 포커스 시기 돼. 옴들라 포커스 시기 돼. 띠다 띠치 두 때라 셰신 세. 이나 야단 뉴뉴 시셔버지도. 대단 당사 맨 마인드풀니스를 왜 가래다. 셰신 겁니다.
Mindfulness.
봐. 생각해서 강세.
Awareness.
아?
Awareness.
Awareness. I think 이쪽에. 야, 딱 가니면 mindfulness이 베껴라서 딱딜라야 셰신을 니야. 셰신 첨부스게 셰신 단다 디셰긴 셰신 중중을 지위 셰신. 랑게 류가이 숨 간데 지금 다지시 딜 셰신 중모서. 단 딜에 쳐야지 조선은 나랑서 디나 택션 주주나 셰신 첨부스게 조바 첨부게 람들 셰신 첨부스. 따디따다 대셰기면 디시나야 매기 제와셔버 디야 릉부시 우차가래. 단 도나 디셰신 세게 디 쫄메기 셰신 따든 도덕 셰신나 쫄와 매긴 기트네 셰신들라 셰신 첨부스. 안디 쫄와 대 지위 셰신. 디디 디기 던다. 다 증거 니 님부터 셰신제. 되네 다다기 얘기네 두제바 생기도 야 되네 두미제바 생님부 밑에 버지도 디 님부터라 삼바서래 아 님부터 왔다 니 조거는 니 밑에 탑시죠 그래 선비행 조거는 미행위 탑시죠 그래 되네 디 잘라된 다기 담마도 되네 디 님부터 있더라 삼바서 다 배겨와신 먹으시기도 다디 먹고 거르서 다디 삼바지 다 뒤에서 다른이 강에서 반주 뭐요되나 두제바스기도 야 두미제바스기 님부 밑에 봤어 두제바스는 님부 땡자와 오버 리페는 아라운드 나자지는 오버도스 메시지잖아 그냥 에펙트기로 봐 빼는 나자지가 이나 나자 가지도 된 나자 코로나 도스 되네 제세 MG가 납자서 보는 동직 세샤에 양고 편규 나감 누구로 봐 배티나 진짜게 님부 땡큐 망소나 맨기 도스 망부차가 도게나 진짜게 양 땡인지게 줄 누구요 데라 되네 두미체 바스긴 되게 님부데라 땅뇽 세게다 되네 셈 딱딱 대소나 나랑서 있는 되네 땡인지 거라 가 포커스는 딱 일려도 되티콜라 마지막에 티토 포커스 되어 데라 땅뇽 다 게데 딱딱 살다 최저 중이 딱다레스 바탈린 한번에 가운데 양거 데티디 두체 게종서나 땡인지 양거 게 그래 땡아도 대야 샤긴스
So now the 8 remedial factors. So these are, first to list them, faith, interest, effort, pliability, recollection, awareness, intention, and equanimity. So the first 4, faith, aspiration, faith, interest, I think I said, faith, interest, effort, and pliability. These first four remedial factors are antidotes for laziness. Laziness was the first of the 5 faults we need to abandon, right? So what do we mean by faith? Faith essentially means interest. Faith just, here when we say faith, we're not talking specifically about faith in the 3 jewels. We're talking about kind of the sentiment of faith, like a state of interest. The essence of faith is liking in the sense of being interested in something. So if you're interested in something, that's going to counteract laziness, right? Because your interest is going to push you to engage in the meditation. So first quality, the first remedial factor then is faith. The second quality is interest. We could also say like aspiration. This is very similar to the first, faith. But it means because of your interest or faith, you are kind of involved in, like you know, if you're interested in something, then you will naturally find yourself thinking about it again and again, right? Okay. Yeah, so when we can say, we can translate the second quality as like involvement or seeking, involvement or seeking out. Because of your interest, then you seek the thing out or you involve yourself in it. This also counteracts laziness, right? Third remedial factor is effort, so diligence, applying yourself. So this means we apply effort, rouse effort, thinking I need to meditate, I need to apply myself. If I don't do this, I'm going to be wasting my time. If I don't train in meditation, how will I abandon the afflictions? How will I attain samadhi? So you cultivate effort. This counteracts laziness. Fourth is pliability. Pliability refers to a level of adeptness, becoming adept in the practice. It's a bit like if we think of athletes, like the football players in the World Cup, they're so well trained and adept, right, that they're just incredibly capable, flexible and capable and powerful. Or these kind of athletes who can do like tightrope walking or extreme sports like jumping over buildings and stuff. They're just so well trained. They can kind of use their body to do whatever they want. So in the case of meditation, this means that through one's training, one's mind has become very flexible, pliable in the sense of flexible. Your mind will stay and rest wherever you place it. The mind will focus on wherever you direct it. So these first four qualities are remedies to laziness. The fifth remedial factor is recollection. Often this same word is translated as mindfulness, but I'll say recollection. This means to recollect the instructions. So the second of the five faults was forgetting the instructions, right? So when we cultivate recollection, this quality of recollection, we remedy the fault of forgetting the instructions. It's just like, for instance, this means we are mindful enough to remember the instructions, like Mipa Rinpoche's instruction that, okay, if your mind isn't remaining on the full form of the Buddha, then focus your mind on a specific aspect of Buddha's form and move the mind around Buddha's form, So remembering the instructions you've received and applying them. Then we have the fifth remedial factor, awareness. We could also translate this as like vigilance. This is a remedy for dullness and agitation. This is, in a sense, what a lot of people refer to with the word mindfulness these days. Just being aware, what is going on in my body, my speech and mind, my three gateways of body, speech and mind. In the Shantideva's The Way of a Bodhisattva, he teaches a whole chapter on awareness or vigilance. It's very, very beautiful. He explains in that context the subject is the conduct of a bodhisattva. So in that context, then we need to cultivate this introspection or awareness. And be constantly checking in with ourselves. Okay, what am I doing with my body? Are my physical actions in line with the Bodhisattva's conduct or not? How am I speaking? How am I thinking? Are my actions of body, speech and mind in accord with the way of a Bodhisattva or not? In the context of shamatha meditation, this would mean checking in with ourselves and remaining vigilant about our state of body, speech and mind. Are we really applying ourselves to shamatha? Are we focused? Are we placing our attention on the object? That's in general what's meant by awareness. That said, we can talk about two different types of awareness or vigilance. The vigilance, I should just use one word, shouldn't I? The awareness we've just described, we can say is a lesser type of vigilance. Rongsa Mahapandita explains in his text, Entering the Way of the Greater Vehicle, that there is also a greater type of vigilance, which is the effortless vigilance of the Great Perfection. I won't explain that in any kind of detail, but it seems important just to mention it, that there is a greater type of vigilance found in the Great Perfection, effortless, uncontrived vigilance. So then we have the seventh remedial factor of intention. This is a remedy for the fault of non-application, so not applying ourselves to the meditation. When we have this remedial factor intention, then we apply ourselves to the practice. Okay, so what is my mind doing? Am I focused on the object or not? We really apply ourselves and apply the instructions. The eighth and final remedial factor is equanimity. This remedies the fifth of the five faults, over-application. So over-application in meditation is a bit like taking an overdose of medication. Say you're given some medication and you're meant to take like 50 milligrams, right, as one dose, but then you take 1,000 milligrams. Well, 1,000 milligrams is too much. 1,000 milligrams is actually going to hurt you. It's not going to help you. So the same goes with meditation. If we over-apply, if we overdo it with the instructions, then actually, we can just that can be unhelpful, more harmful than helpful. So hence the remedial factor of equanimity, cultivating a state of equanimity where you just, instead of overdoing it and getting overwrought, you just let be and settle in an uncontrived state. These are the 8 remedial factors. If we cultivate these factors and have them, then our meditation will be good. And now we will stop here.
당상 곰 담지 찍바 인상도 뒤뒤다 만디 드는 곰시 지당기 신이 곰시고 다 당상게 지 미좀 되나지니 데디기 담제 곰 찍바 인나샤 지게 지지서 포르바드 거라장 윙람 데til라 아삼다 대야 지기 저바치 보이나샤 되게 들어서 좀 너바레스 뒤도 양 저바치 보기 비우요나 양레데 디사마데 담제 저바치 보레그레 다야 저바치 보레그레 작동 깨미 두시나 다양 저바 첨부레 리동 일미스 셰게나 섬긴 남동야 디네 추그레도레 야 디네 살동 일베도시나 통제 탐제 까와도 분바 탐제 저바 치빈냠니 지규도 요레 디저 마시 바제 디네 진득게 따와디 걸 마송 바제 디네 디라지 암저 녜디 규도 미테데 우땅 규도 우땅 디네 디라 탐제라 삼로다 아니 데지 디네 디저 탐제 저바 첨부도 인삼소나니 데네 링아반도 또 너버레 라마 셰긴게 만노나야 녜겐게 노르세게레 디디 라마 셰긴게 노르세게레 다 당산들아 유튜브 나타나 디라 봄페 망고도 테네 거라바 다 민라 망고드나 곰냥이 뒤뒤 유튜브 좀 따기요 메디테이션 세게 토도 나가오 나랑 메디테이션 토도 그렇지 녜온데 가 군조 lokja ta dire she de dire dukte dire che zona chara tamje lamlo do gre tiru sapsap tosis te tirikti to tangi di she bains.
Just one last thing, one important point to mention. I said earlier that these days so many people seem to understand meditation to just be like just one single thing, and understand all the different types of meditation. To think that there aren't different types of meditation, that meditation is just one kind of lump sum thing, sitting still and focusing your mind on the sound of a singing bowl or what have you, and then people practice that technique and they think, oh, this is the meditation of the great perfection. That's an erroneous understanding, right? It's a mistaken understanding. So what I've explained just now with these 5 faults and 8 remedial factors, with that I was just explaining shamatha, just the practice and practice of shamatha. That said, if one does, for instance, practice meditation like focused on the sound of a singing bowl or what have you, if the practitioner has the view of the great perfection, then for sure that style of meditation will become great perfection meditation. If the practitioner has the view of inseparable sound and emptiness, or inseparable awareness and emptiness, inseparable clarity and emptiness, then everything that is viewed, for instance, will be viewed as the inseparability of clarity and emptiness. And then all of that... Yes, in short, if the practitioner is infused with the view of the great perfection in that way, then those styles of meditation too will, because of the view, become great perfection meditation. However, if someone engages in those types of meditation but without the view, without first cultivating the view, and they just train in those styles of meditation, that's not the practice of the great perfection, right? And to think so would be a mistake. Even if it might be that a teacher explains sort of without error, but the student misunderstands and develops a wrong understanding. Whatever the case may be, to think that all types of meditation are the same is wrong. But these days, yeah, sometimes I watch like talks about meditation and so on YouTube. I'm very interested in meditation, so I'm interested in these things. And it seems that for the most part, people seems a very widespread misunderstanding that meditation just means sitting still sitting still without moving in this way, and that kind of across the board that's understood to be meditation. That's not the case. I had a few Western people ask me if Hindu meditation and the meditation of the Great Perfection are the same. Not at all. So we'll stop today. We'll stop now. We'll stop here for now. Please dedicate the merit. We're around 10 minutes over time, sorry.